Tottenham Hotspur. Let's just say it's not been a great season. Nearly a year on since their Europa League triumph, beating Manchester United 1-0 in the Europa League final on the 21st of May 2025. We now look on the 20th of May 2026 and Spurs are only 2 points above West Ham, who sit in a relegation zone. Spurs, going into the final day, could still be relegated to the EFL Championship for the first time in nearly 50 years. And how has this happened? Going from winning the UEFA Europa League, being a team like Manchester United, who have had an amazing record in European finals, winning the first trophy in 17 years, of course, to nearly a year on, Spurs now facing relegation, the fear of relegation, only 2 points above that margin, and having to get a point still to make sure they're safe, and just to make sure they're still relevant and be a Premier League club next season, while their rivals Arsenal have just confirmed being champions of the Premier League. So if you're going to enjoy this video, it's going to be nice to record. Always remember to smash that subscribe button to the Flipping channel. And let's get into this one. So we know tomorrow it is a year since Tottenham Hotspur beat Manchester United to win the UEFA Europa League, their first trophy in 17 years, and their first European success in over 41 years. Spurs, of course, captured their fourth European trophy a year ago. But now looking on, a year on now, facing relegation. Of course, Spurs did finish 17th last year on the final spot for Premier League next season, if you get what I mean. But they were about 14 points, I believe, in front of Leicester City, who finished 18th in the relegation zone. So last season, Spurs had no problems with relegation. And Spurs had a lot more injuries last season. They were hurt a lot more. They had struggles, losing half of the first team at least, and having to deal with UEFA Europa League, the FA Cup, the Premier League, and the Carabao Cup, because we went far in the cup competitions. Maybe not the FA Cup, but the Carabao Cup, we went far. So at one point, with half our first team being injured, we were playing in 4 different competitions to try and be competitive in them. And it just didn't work. The players were tired. So much youth was being played because we didn't have enough first team players, which caused us to slip. And of course, meant us only achieving 38 points in the Premier League that season, finishing 17th. On that final day, at one point, we were 13th in the league, so it shows you how tight the Premier League was. And it wasn't even that bad. But of course, after our Europa League win, Ange Postecoglou, the manager who led us to our first trophy in 17 years, was sacked from Tottenham Hotspur due to him finishing so low in the league table. And just wasn't good enough in a way. So Thomas Frank was brought in the summer, having big expectations, coming off a European success, needed to do something big, having Champions League football to look forward for the season, for the first time in over 3 years at Tottenham, being back in the Champions League. It was a big, big thing for Spurs, so they had to make sure it was worth it. And they didn't do that, to be honest with you, or did they? Spurs started off the season with a high, beating Burnley 3-0. I was there for it in a VIP seat. Then, of course, Manchester City away, going to, former league champions before, winning 2-0 and keeping a clean sheet at the Etihad was big. Starting our Champions League campaign, we finished 4th in the league phase out of 36 teams, which was really, really well. And of course, still dealing with injuries. No Dejan Kulusevski, Jazz Madison out of an ACL injury, and just little minor injuries that were like every 2-3 weeks here and then, to like Pedro Porro, Christian Romero, Vicario, and many, many more in the midfield and stuff. So the league, well, it was a different story. But the Champions League, we weren't even doing that bad. So we got to February. After signing the players he wanted, getting what he wanted, Thomas Frank sat in 16th with Tottenham Hotspur, with only 29 points in February. And of course, with only about nearly 15 matches to go. It sounds quite a lot, but when you sit on 29 points and you need to be in Europe next season, well, it's a lot of fights to get, and still we had to play the likes of Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester City, you know what I mean? There's still many, many more. But, so, we looked on. We sacked Thomas Frank. That's one thing we've done. We sacked him because we didn't think our performances were good enough. So, it gets a lot worse down here. But let's just say, the moral of the story, and the moral of this problem, is Thomas Frank. So, like I said, after Thomas Frank was sacked, Igor Tudor was brought in as the interim Spurs manager for the rest of the season. Of course, he had managed Juventus, Olympique Marseille in his time as a manager. So him coming to Spurs was a big deal to try and keep Spurs just in the Premier League now, really. And it didn't get off to a high, with Arsenal winning 4-1 at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to make it 8-2 in aggregate over 2 games this season, of course, with Arsenal dominating Spurs and showing how far in front of Spurs they are and how they're looking for a league title and Spurs just want to be in the same league as Arsenal. So it didn't look good for Spurs. And then losses to the likes of Fulham, Crystal Palace, and then eventually Nottingham Forest with a big game that was needed to win. Losing 3-0 at home to another relegation candidate was absolutely embarrassing. But unfortunately for Igor Tudor, his father passed away, meaning mutual agreement that Igor Tudor would leave the club only after just being at the club for just over a month, which was an absolute embarrassment and failure. So Spurs had to find a new manager in the final international break of the season. And Roberto De Zerbi came in, the man who led Brighton to European football in his first season at the club. So Spurs had high expectations, a manager who'd gone to Olympique Marseille, had got them Champions League football as well. There was a lot of expectation with De Zerbi to do his thing, come in and play his football and keep Spurs in the Premier League and do it with a bit of a strut as well, making us look good towards the end of the season. Again, it didn't start amazing. Going to Sunderland, only losing 2 matches at home all season, losing 1-0 away. But then we started to get somewhere. Getting a 2-2 draw against Brighton, which we really should have won, conceding the 96th minute, which stopped Spurs from winning their first league game in 2026. That took until the next week after that, going to already relegated Wolves and winning 1-0 due to a João Paulinho tap-in at the back post. And Spurs doubled that up with the week after, going to Aston Villa, who are now qualified for the Champions League and who play in the UEFA Europa League final tonight, beating them 2-1 due to Conor Gallagher and Richarlison, both scoring to give Spurs another 3 points, taking them out the relegation zone for the first time in over a month. Spurs were flying, and then it came to a halt once again. Leeds, last Monday night, I was there for it, and it was a terrible performance. Drawing 1-1 to Leeds, who are already safe and have nothing to play for. They're already on the beach, of course. So, it wasn't great. And then last night, we went to Chelsea away. Then that didn't really go well. Losing 2-1 to Chelsea away, we never get a result at the bridge. So let's talk about the situation Spurs are in right now. But one thing coming from me that you need to understand, as a Tottenham Hotspur fan, you need to have hope and believe. Because this club, well, it doesn't put you through the nicest circumstances. Let's just say that for a fact. So Tottenham have one final game, with Everton at home on Sunday, May 24th, to keep their Premier League status and keep it. Of course, with a 47-year stay in the Premier League so far, they need to make sure that makes 48 years and relegate one of their fierce rivals, West Ham, to the EFL Championship for the first time in 14 years for West Ham. So this is big. It's everything to play for Sunday night for Tottenham Hotspur. But how did it all go wrong? I've told you the breakdown. I told you the results. I told you, how we got here in a way. Poor management, number one. Choosing the wrong managers. Thomas Frank, who had only led Brentford to multiple mid-table finishes, only got them close to Europe one season, finishing 9th in the Premier League a couple of seasons ago, was just not good enough. Not the right appointment. We need someone to come in, like Roberto De Zerbi at the time, to really come in and make an impact, Come in and, just get this team flying and knows how to get back in to the European places, like the Europa League places, even near the Champions League places, because that's where Tottenham Hotspur belong. And then Igor Tudor, of course, was not the right appointment. He didn't know how to come into the Premier League. He couldn't deal with all the injuries. He was too overloaded with pressure on what he had to do in such a short period of time. Number two, egos and mentalities. Well, egos, that's one thing we can definitely say. Mentalities, maybe a different story. But the likes of Christian Romero, Mickey van der Ven, Jed Spence, Randall Kolo Muani, Matthias Tell, have all developed egos at this football club now, that they think they're higher than where the football club is right now. So they think that it's just pointless to fight for this team and go into these final games not needing much passion. I will give it, that has changed in recent weeks, but it's still not where it should be. Players like Mickey van der Ven, who is now the captain due to Romero getting injured at Sunderland away, ending his season before the World Cup starts in June. He has had passion, but he's not been at his best. And I understand you're never going to be your best in these type of situations. When you're a player who's gone from winning like the Europa League, of course, last year, finishing in European places before with Tottenham, doing really, really good, having a manager who played attacking football, having the fans behind your side. It is really tough when the fans are against you. You're on the face of relegation. No Europe, no trophy. It's a very, very tough place to be. And I can understand that, but you're always going to get hit with struggles in life and you've got to beat them. You have to overcome them. And this is the type of situation we're in. But I feel like everyone's just lost hope. And number three, just poor performances, really. It ain't been good enough. In general, it's not been good enough. The fans need to be better a little bit, but more the players. The players have not showed on the pitch where we should be. With the likes of Pedro Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Bergvall, Archie Gray. All these players have potential to be amazing, near world-class players in my opinion. But they're just not showing it. I feel like these performances ain't been good enough. Archie Gray, I'll give the benefit of the doubt. He's young, same goes for Lucas Bergvall. But you still are in this situation. It doesn't matter if you're 19 or 33. You're in a relegation battle. You need to wake up. Because I understand you're used to being in European football. You could be in Championship football next season, bud. It's different. Very, very different. And number 4, the final thing I'll say is the fans. Ain't been good enough. I feel like the fans have gone against our club so many times. And I do understand what we've done for Nottingham Forest at home a couple of months ago, of course, when we done the big jump with the fans and everything, getting round for the stadium with the players going on the bus to hype them up and get them up for a big game, But it doesn't just cover up all the patches you've left for the rest of the season. When it was getting bad, the fans walked out on us. They didn't want to do anything, They didn't come to the stadium. And that doesn't help the players because the players depend on the fans. When the fans are chanting them, you hear it, then you see the players develop so much more confidence. But when the fans are quiet and they've got nothing to say and there's barely any of them there, well, the players lose a lot of hope and they lose a lot of belief that the fans are really caring about their football club. So yes, Tottenham Hotspur's not in a great position. And how are they going to save it? Well, I don't know. Being a Tottenham Hotspur fan, you never know what can happen in the future because anything can change in a matter of time being a fan of this football club. But thank you for watching. It has been nothing to record. Always remember to smash that subscribe button to the Flippy channel. And I'll see you all day faces soon. Goodbye, guys.